Okay, hello and welcome to a semi-new format of video, which is the Knit Your Cart. So I'm going to be looking at some Anthropology clothing and recommending similar knitting patterns to get an Anthropology vibe. Okay, hello and welcome. So as I mentioned, I'm talking through Anthropology and showing some clothing from their website. I'm not going to one-to-one show, here's this thing on their website, here's how to knit it, but I'm showing some samples of what you can find on the Anthropology website, and then some examples of knitting patterns that I think are similar to the overall Anthropology vibe. So I think it's gonna be really fun. It's a slightly different format than what I've done before, where I've kind of talked about different aesthetics. So I'm interested to see how you all like it and if it's a fun format, but I think it's gonna be fun. I take a lot of knitting inspiration from some of my favorite commercial stores to buy clothing from. I guess that's an oxymoron, but stores where I buy clothes, I take some knitting inspiration. So I think it's fun to really dive into those a little bit more. So I've got some inspiration that we'll go through. First of all, I just went through the Anthropology website a little while ago, looked at their knitwear selection to see what, you know, generally what their vibe is, things that I really liked, or things that I just thought represented the brand well. And then pulled those off. I have some pictures we'll go through, and then went and found some knitting patterns that I thought were similar. So let's talk about them. There will be, a few inspo photos and then about 12 patterns to talk about. First of all, Anthropologie, if you're not familiar, is a store. I think it's based in the US, but I think that you can find it abroad too. That does both clothing and home goods. They're primarily for women's clothing, but I believe they do carry men's clothing as well. And a lot of their stuff is more oversized. And I'd say that generally it has some classic element about it, whether it's the silhouette, the style, but there's something that has changed about it to make it modernized or fun or kind of like funky. I don't know. It always reminds me of like an eccentric aunt where there's still this classic element to it, but it's funky for color choice, or maybe the fit's more oversized than normal, or graphics are larger on it, or something that just makes it slightly different than like what you traditionally see. So instead of just explaining that anymore, I'm going to show some examples. So I found this cabled sweater, for instance, that generally has similar cables to kind of a traditional fisherman's sweater, a fisherman's cabled sweater, but the fit is drastically different with it being more oversized. It's a V-neck, and a lot of the cables are larger. So we see that. By the way, the sweater is $248. We see this sweater, which is a very simple kind of classic fit, but I think that it looks a little bit floppier than normal with the neckline. The neckline's also different, where it's a crew neck, and it's like not quite a turtleneck, but it's just kind of meant to be like a floppy, cozy neck. So it doesn't fold over, and it's got 2x2 ribbing, which I don't feel like I see that much commercially. And it's drop shoulder fit. This sweater is $98, by the way. This sweater here, which is a beautiful colorwork cardigan. Interestingly, one of the motifs is inside out. I keep seeing that in commercial settings where they're selling knitwear where the color work is inside out. So very interesting trend. I've seen some knitters react to it saying they absolutely hate it. I feel kind of mixed about it, but I don't know if it plays well here for me. But this sweater generally, you can see it's got this kind of like traditional Fair Isle cardigan look, but then the motifs are larger. One of them's inside out, and it's got this different collar. So kind of classic, but kind of not. That sweater is $188, by the way. Got this beautiful circular yoke colorwork sweater, which generally looks quite classic. Like the overall silhouette of both the fit and the colorwork, I'd say, is quite classic, but generally it's more geometric and graphic. Like the graphics are larger than similar sweaters that I've seen traditionally or in knitting patterns. So it's interesting. This is $158. We've got the sweater where it looks quite, classic. It's a traditional raglan sweater, but it's different because of the texture. If you look at it, it looks like quite a textured knit. And then these little stripes of color as well make it have that little pop of difference. It's another $158 sweater. We've got this cardigan, which on first look looks quite simple and like quite classic, but I think that's just the way that it's styled, where it's left open at the bottom, that makes it really different. It's also really well silhouetted. That's actually kind of similar to the cardigan I'm wearing, which is the Eva cardigan, where it's kind of got this set in sleeve where it's just more tailored to your body. So very, very interesting one there. That sweater is $198. We've got this sweater cardigan, which is in a fun texture. Generally, it's a standard like collegiate sweater, but it's in a different kind of fluffy, almost boucle looking texture. And we've got this contrast color stripe and cables on the button band to make it look different. And it's sitting at $98 for this one. Then we've got this cardigan, which, generally simple silhouette, but it's got the big ruffle on it, or kind of a Peter Pan color, I think those are called, at $118. We've got this sweater, which generally is like a bulky, boxy, kind of cropped cardigan, but of course it's covered in all these little bows, and that one's $120. And then very simple cardigan here, or just a pullover sweater here with some visible raglan seams and just 2x2 rib. This one I'd say just has this like fuzz to it, and I think normally you don't see the seams of the raglan as much, hence why I've included it. And it's got the nice oversized fit as well. Here's another sweater that is sold out, so unfortunately I can't tell you the price, but again, it's kind of got this color work, circular yoke design. The color work is a lot more graphic and geometric than I've traditionally seen. And finally, in accessories, I have this scarf, which is just a traditional long rectangular ribbed scarf, but it's different with these different color pops throughout. So it's using a lot of different color blocking. Originally, when I looked at this one, it was in a beautiful kind of neon palette, or almost pastel neons with like pink and green and all these colors making up these color work blocks. And now it's only available in this blue and red color palette. But yeah, very interesting. And then finally, and this one's $48. And then finally, we've got this hat where it's a very traditional looking ribbed hat. It's kind of a wider rib, but generally looks just like a ribbed hat. But it's got the big poof at the top, or like the big extra area at the top, which kind of makes it slightly different and a little bit more oversized and funky. And that one is $38. So there's kind of an overview of Anthropologie. I think that generally you can see that they like to have oversized things. That's not a rule, but a generalization. A lot of things are very geometric, or just, I don't know, they have something funky or cool that I've tried to nail down in everyone, but some of them I'm just like, I don't know, it just looks different than a classic, and I can't say why, but they just looks like cooler for some reason, or not even cooler, but just like something's a little funkier about it. So that's Anthropologie. Of course, their website's huge. They carry different brands as well. So I really tried to just highlight things that are carried by the Anthropologie brand. But there is a wide variety if you go on their website and see, they carry different brands and all of this. But I really just tried to highlight, after searching through their entire knitwear category, like, okay, what are kind of repeating themes and what seems to be really popular on the website, what has come back multiple times, and all of that. So there's that. And now I've got 12 patterns in knitwear to talk through. Some of them I'll say this is a reference to exactly one of these, but a lot of them are just, pulled inspirations. The first pattern that I am highlighting is the Chantilly cardigan by Laura Penrose. A nice V-neck, simple drop shoulder cardigan, but it's got this beautiful Peter Pan ruffle collar. We've seen that very recently, and it's just beautiful. It's an Aran weight pattern, and it has 10 sizes available, which have a finished chest circumference between 29.5 and 67.25 inches. and then it is expected to have 2 to 4 inches of positive ease. So pretty good size range available. And the next pattern here is the 3 Seasons pullover. This is patterned by Wool and Pine, and a beautiful V-neck cabled cardigan or cabled pullover. It's definitely a little bit more fitted than some of the Anthropologie patterns, but I think that the larger motifs of the cable, and you could easily size up in this, really do make it fit in well. And it still is like slightly slouchy, so I think, you could maybe size up to get a slightly more slouchy look, but it's not like it's a fitted sweater. And this one is a worsted weight pattern, and it is available for sizes between a bust of 32 and 68 inches. Next pattern is the Sela. This is by Jonna Helen for Lina magazine, and Lina is who also did the Lento, I think in the same issue or a similar issue. And the Lento, is an incredibly popular yarn-friendly sweater, and this pattern kind of reminds me of it. It's a similar silhouette, but I believe the Lento, no, the Lento's a raglan, and this one is as well, but this one's at a different weight, so this is a bulky weight. It was originally designed for a brushed alpaca yarn, so it's a very, very fuzzy and light despite being a bulky weight. I think that this one you could use a blown yarn and get a very similar effect as well, but yeah, it just looks like super fuzzy and soft and cozy, and just has like this nice kind of lived in, delicate, drapey look to it while being really soft and cozy. And it's got 9 sizes available. That the finished bust circumference is 44.5 inches to 68.5 inches, with 8 to 16 inches of positive ease recommended. Okay, next we've got, and I did not put these in an order. I maybe should have categorized them, but I did not. So the next pattern I'll talk about is the On the Rails scarf by Espace Tricot. This is a yarn store out of Canada, and it is a free pattern. And it's a beautiful shawl, kind of scarf shawl combo. And it wraps around your neck really well. It's got beautiful kind of a broken rib pattern, I believe. There's also some sections of stockinette though, and it's kind of this interesting shape where, like, at first you think it's just a rectangle, but it's actually, I believe, slightly triangular or slightly angled at least. But it looks like a really comfortable scarf. I think that for this one, if you wanted to try color blocking with it, it's actually got these areas of kind of breaks up the rib pattern with a row of almost eyelet looking things, and you could easily just change colors when you're breaking that up to make these color changes look a little bit more intentional as well. So I thought that this one would be nice for color blocking, in addition to just having kind of a similar ribbed look to some of the Anthropologie accessories shown. Next pattern, we have the Totally Tubular Turtleneck by Park Williams, who's also known as Park and Knit. This one's also a bulky weight sweater and just looks so cozy and floppy almost. It's a raglan design and is bulky weight using the originally used a blown yarn, and I do recommend you stick with a blown yarn or like a brushed fluffy yarn. You don't want it to be too heavy here in order to achieve this nice kind of floppy look to it. But yeah, just a nice oversized turtleneck look that just looks floppy and cozy, and it has 9 sizes available. The finished chest circumference is 34 inches to 66 inches and is meant to have 4 to 8 inches of positive ease. Next, we've got the Calm Down cardigan, which is a pattern by Lily Kate France. I've definitely talked about this pattern before. I love this pattern. There's something just so cool about this cardigan. I can't really put my finger on what, but it fits into a lot of different aesthetics and is just cool. So it's, a very simple cardigan. I think that it's a drop shoulder, but don't quote me on it. But it's got kind of a cool section of ribbing that almost looks like it's like a faux seam between the sleeves and the body, and it looks so cool. It's really simple, but it's cool, and I think that I was thinking of this one for Anthropology because the buttons on this cardigan kind of like are not evenly spaced throughout the entire button placket. They leave a little bit of space at the bottom so that the bottom of the cardigan kind of peeks open a little bit, which reminds me of a lot of the styling shown in the Anthropology sweaters. Obviously, styling is not how it looks on you, or how you choose to wear it is not going to be the same probably as the way that models style it, but I think that it does at least give that essence of, if you really love the way that some of these cardigans I've shown from Anthropology look on the models and the way that they're styled, I think that this is a way to have that for yourself as well, where it's kind of a built-in feature of the sweater. And it just, I don't know, it's cool. I think this one's cool and fits an Anthropology vibe. So I'm talking about it. And so it's a DK weight sweater, and it is meant to fit between a 28-inch and 62-inch bust circumference. So that's included. It's like your measurements, and then the ease is added on top of that. Next, we've got the Sparks sweater, which is by Mikey Von Gidgen, also published in Punk Rock Unicorn online shop. This one just came out, and I've actually talked about it in my podcast before because I've been waiting for this sweater to come out. I just think it's so freaking cool. But it's circular colorwork sweater, but instead of a traditional kind of Fair Isle detailed pattern, it's got this beautiful, very geometric graphic design of just these triangles against each other. So I think that it's so cool. I love the neon samples that they show, and I'm so excited to see this one come out. And so this one is meant for a DK weight, and there's 9 sizes available. It goes between a 36.25 and 75-inch bust circumference, and then you need to include 6 to 14 inches of positive ease. And I think this one gets bonus points because they have pictures of men wearing the sweater, which is just always really helpful to see. Like, okay, if I do actually want to make this sweater for a man, it's not easy to see how it's going to fit or how I should modify any fit when I'm only seeing photos of women wearing it. So it's lovely to be able to see that as well. So I definitely always applaud that, to see like diversity not only in body sizes and body types, but genders or sexes of those wearing them, so that you can actually see, like, can I make this sweater for my boyfriend or brother or dad or whoever you want. Or yourself, if you're a man and would like to knit the sweater, there's actual inspiration for you. So lovely. I've also featured the Jo, I think it's Jo, it's DJO sweater by Sophie O'Shara. And I always try so hard on these names, but if I ever get anything wrong, I'm sorry. You're always welcome to correct me in the comments if you do know how these things are pronounced, but I'm trying my best. Again, another kind of geometric circular yoke colorwork sweater. This one, of course, has the colorwork that goes all the way throughout the body, throughout the sleeves, and I think that if you wanted it to look a little bit more similar to some of the ones I showed before, or just be a little simpler, you could stop the colorwork after the yoke, and it would also just be an amazing sweater. Like, the motifs in the yoke are so beautiful on their own and would be totally fine to eliminate the rest if you wanted. But it looks great all put together. I also love the balloon sleeves on this one and think that the fit is just kind of a fun, oversized look, but it's more cropped as well. This one has 8 sizes available. It's a sport weight, and those 8 sizes fit or have chest circumferences of 36 to 57.5 inches. And the ease is not presented here, but I guess you can look at some of the project photos and figure out. I think that there's definitely some positive ease, but not too much. So I'd say maybe 4 to 8, if that. And then you can knit the sweater. Next, I've got the Feather Down Wrap by Pearl Soho. This is another scarf or accessory pattern, and it is free, which is always lovely. So it is just a simple stockinette scarf that is meant to include color blocking. So in this pattern, it only has two color blocks of or two colors featured, but I think that you could easily add more colors in if you wanted, and could get that kind of Anthropologie vibe. It's meant for a super bulky yarn and specifically a blown yarn, so it would knit up really quickly and would be super light and airy but super warm if you use a blown yarn as recommended. And yeah, it comes in one size and just is a really cool accessory. It's interesting because with scarves, you almost always see a stitch pattern that can be double-sided. It's going to look the same on both sides, whether that's rib or brioche, or certain lace patterns or some cables will look the same or similar on both sides. This one will not, because one side is going to be stockinette and the other is reverse stockinette or the pearl side. So in the past, I feel like I went through a phase where I hated the way that stockinette looked, like kind of when I was an advanced beginner or like early intermediate knitter. I just was like, oh no, I want to do more complex things, and I think stockinette on its own looks boring, or like hate the way reverse stockinette looks, and I wanted everything to be double-sided or just really unique and detailed. But now I think that I really do value the simplicity of stockinette and actually really like the way reverse stockinette looks. So this one is just a cool scarf. And I'll stop my tangent now. So we can move on to the next pattern here, which is the Kalias by Isabel Kramer. I specifically chose this pattern because I think that it looks similar to the sweater from Anthropologie that had all the bows all over it, but it's a little bit more elevated because, I mean, there's tons of like simple boxy sweater patterns out there that could give a similar look, but I liked this one specifically because it's really thought out and does have a lot of sizes available, so I really appreciate that for this one. And it's got like a really cool ribbed back with the front all or mostly in stockinette, but the back's all in a rib, which I think is cool. And then I think you could add bows to it, which I'll talk about in a second because I do have a bow recommendation. But this is an Aran weight pattern, has 9 sizes available, and the sizes are meant to fit between a bust of 32 and 60 inches. And then, so I think you could knit this one with or without bows. I think it's just got kind of a cool look with that like boxy, more oversized fit, but is a little bit more thought out than like a simple beginner's like kit cardigan that you might find in a bulky weight where it, you're seaming and just, I don't know. I feel like this one's going to have more thought into how it's going to fit. It looks really well designed, and there's over 600 patterns, so I really trust that it's well written and very, very detailed. And so then I think that you could add a bow to it and make the billow pillow bow, which I'm going to show here, which is a really fun, fluffy, like, as they say, billowy bow where it's just got a lot of oomph to it. And you could make a bunch of these and attach them to that cardigan, or you could make simpler bows by just making a bunch of I-cords and tying them into bows, or doing double knitting as well and tying them into bows. Whatever your preference is to make cute little bows, I think that you could do that and attach them to the cardigan, which could be super fun. You could also use whatever cardigan pattern you want. It doesn't have to be the Kalias cardigan, but I was looking for a similar oversized boxy look on that one. And then I'm speeding through these, but my final pattern here is the Robin Beanie, which is a pattern by Sari Nordland. It's very well known, and when I saw the beanie I showed from Anthropologie, I immediately was like, that is the Robin Beanie. That looks almost identical to the Robin Beanie by Sari Nordland. So definitely knew I wanted to feature it, and really kind of sparked me to say, yes, I'm definitely making this video because look, like this pattern that came out well before that hat on Anthropologie was being sold looks almost identical. So it's kind of, I don't think that Anthropologie or whoever actually designed that hat was inspired by Sari Nordland, but it is kind of cool to see knitting patterns and knitting trends show up in our stores and in commercially available clothing as well. So, side tangent, but this pattern is a hat, which is just a traditional wide ribbed hat, but features a lot of extra room at the top. So I think that it's fun. It looks very similar to the Anthropology one, which we already talked through. It is a DK weight hat. It's originally intended to hold a fingering and a lace together, and then it's meant to fit head circumferences between 21 and 23 inches. So unfortunately, there's no children's sizes, and if your head's a little bit bigger, you could maybe add on a motif. I honestly might, if I were to knit this, I'd probably reduce a motif because I've got a little bit of a pinhead, and I tend to knit like the large child size, or like if there's a teen size of hats, I tend to knit that. But still, I mean, that's the average head size. And yeah, it's just a beautiful hat. I especially love this hot pink sample, which when I'd actually originally been looking on Anthropologie, the hat available was hot pink. So I was like, that's the exact same hat. So, okay, those are the patterns to hopefully get you an Anthropologie inspired knit wardrobe. If you want to do it yourself for your own Anthropologie wardrobe, here you go. I hope this is helpful. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know what you think of this format. Of course, I've done a lot of pattern roundups before, but this one is kind of different. So I'm like, how do we feel? Do we like knit your cart videos? Let me know. Let me know if there's any other stores you'd like me to specifically go through. I've kind of got a list in the back of my head, but let me know your favorite places to shop for knitwear commercially. And if you haven't noticed, if you've watched in the past, I'm in a different spot of my office. I moved a lot of things around, and so let me know what you think of this background. I think it was fun to film in today. I might kind of switch between my traditional background and this background. But let me know what you think, because I think it's kind of fun where you can see all of my swatches, and it's a lot easier for me to have my computer out to kind of follow along, share details about different patterns as I talk through them. But it doesn't feel quite as cozy. So let me know as well. And as always, thank you so much for being here. If this is your first time being here, thanks for watching, and I will talk to you again soon. Okay, bye.